If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Welcome back to Daybreak this morning. Kay Sprayberry and Jennifer Rosato, our guests this morning here on the show. And ladies, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us today. And Kay, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Inclusive School Week. Governor Kay Ivey has signed a proclamation for this week to include the entire state of Alabama. And there are a lot of other states participating in celebrating what Inclusive School Week is all about and what inclusive classrooms and classes and schools are all about.
Well, Jennifer, tell us a little bit more about what is it all about?
Well, inclusive schools and inclusive classrooms is about children with disabilities being involved in the classroom and being a part of their class. And so these children with disabilities, I like to call it children with different abilities because they bring something special to that classroom, and not just that classroom, but the entire school environment. Mm-hmm. And so when they can be included in the classroom, that makes it very special, not just for those students, but for everyone involved.
Okay, I've known you in education for a long time, and I can say this because I know it's true because I've seen it. Zach would be in the car line, or I would be in the car line waiting on Zach to get out of school or taking him to school. And Kay, among other educators, would be there to greet those children. And Zach is 3 years, third grade today. He's 8 years old, and he still remembers those times. So molding children, impacting their lives, so important.
Oh, it is. It's very important. And I believe, I guess with all my heart, that children at a very early age begin to develop their lifestyles, their thoughts, their habits. And we at Indian Valley have had an inclusive pre-K classroom since I started a long time ago. And
I like what you said.
Children learn from each other, and they learn that everyone is not the same, and that different people have different abilities, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. So, and we enjoy it. We love seeing them learn from each other and understand that everyone's not the same.
Jennifer, a little bit about your background.
This is actually my 24th year. I know I started when I was 12.
I understand.
I started in the area of special education, specifically learning disabilities, mm-hmm. and taught for 7 years and then transitioned to a program specialist where I went around and helped schools with their special education programs. And then 10 years ago, I had the great opportunity to come to Sylacauga City Schools and become the special education director. And in the last few years, transitioned to executive director of teaching and learning.
So, Kay, what are we doing this week in celebration of this week?
This week, we're here. We're telling everybody that we are excited. I sent out a letter on Friday to all of our teachers at Indian Valley and gave it to our special ed teachers in all of our schools. But just to tell them thanks. Thank you for ever including a child. Thank you for ever making a child feel wanted in a classroom that might be in there for a short time during the day. We think that all children, because they learn from their peers, they need to participate in general ed classes to the highest extent that they can. So we try very hard to include every child in all the activities. And one of our goals, and I'll tell them when we start preschool, on the very day parent orientation, we have children with special needs with IEPs, children that don't, quote unquote, don't. If you're 3 or 4 and you don't have a need, there's something going on anyway. But that my goal is that you don't see a difference. And that's our goal throughout the whole thing, is that we don't see a difference in the children.
Wow.
And that all of the children accept the differences.
Inclusive School Week. Governor Ivey has proclaimed this week, December 3rd through the 7th. Jennifer, it can be devastating to a child to feel left out.
Yes, absolutely. And that goes for any child, to be left out of, whether it's your classroom or just your peers, just being accepted. It's a big deal. And, the older they get, the more pronounced that can be. But at an early age, like Kay mentioned, the earlier we can have children feeling involved and a part of their environment, their peer groups, that just carries through all throughout their school years and then beyond.
Kay, both you ladies in education for a good period of time. How do you pick up, or how do you try to read a child as to what their need may be?
If it is a child that has a diagnosis, then we have some ideas of what some of the delays may be. But we do a battery of testing, and it's testing through play to see where they are developmentally, where they compare with their peers. And we develop what's called an IEP that has the goals. And what our goal is that we bring them from where they are to where they should be in accordance to where their peers are. So we work on those goals individually. Everybody that has a IEP has a list of individual goals, and we work on those every day. So.
Now, we've got a meeting tonight at Indian Valley at the library there. It starts at 6. What's that about?
Well, several years ago, we started a group called Heroes of Indian Valley, and it's a group of parents. A lot of times parents in the earlier years need some support. They don't know where to go with questions. So we just started a parent support group. And we've done some things over the years. We completed our pre-K special ed playground. We have met on several different occasions, but this meeting is for Project Lifesaver. And Kelly Johnson from the police department, and I think Officer Wright, I think so it is going to be there to explain the Project Lifesaver bracelets, how to go about getting one, and how important they are, because some of our children with special needs don't have a lot of communication, and they're not, if they got lost or got out away from their parents, they might not be able to tell someone who they are, where they live, anything. And this Project Lifesaver would pinpoint where their position, and then we could go get them really quick.
It's been very effective, too. And so that's a big event coming up tonight at 6 over at the library at Indian Valley.
And it's not just for children.
No. And, just not for parents. You have a lot of grandparents that have grandchildren that they're bringing up today. Yeah. So we want to include them in this as well. Inclusive School Week proclaimed by Governor Ivey, December 3rd through the 7th. And Jennifer, certainly this is not just a Sylacauga High School or Sylacauga City Schools. This is all over the state.
Yes. As you mentioned, Governor Kay Ivey proclaimed it Inclusive Schools Week. But again, we don't want it just to be highlighted this week. It should be highlighted every day, every week, throughout the school year. But we're putting a lot of attention on it this week so that we can make it known to everyone how involved and how we should include kids with disabilities.
Is this, am I pronouncing this right? Kaleidoscope, is that right?
That's correct. That is correct.
Kaleidoscope of kids, that is the theme. Education taking a beautiful shape when all children are included. And what a beautiful time of the year to include all kids, all children, no matter who they are, no matter what color of our skin, no matter what our backgrounds are. It is so important because, this is our future we're talking about.
It is our future. It is our future. Several years ago, and I do this because I have a son who is 37 who has cerebral palsy, and in his school years, that was a very unique thing for someone to be in a regular general ed classroom. But he never needed a special ed classroom. He needed to be with his peers. And we spoke at an education conference one time, and there was a principal from South Alabama asked the kids that had gone with us as a panel, it was a panel discussion, how do Adam has to have help in the bathroom, he has to have help in the lunchroom, how do y'all feel about that? And they went, it's Adam. And I went, yes, that's what we want. We want it just to be an ordinary thing. Accept them the way they are, deal with their differences, and go on about the day.
And Jennifer, there are as a matter of fact, last week, there was one of our star students. Her brother was diagnosed with Down syndrome, and they're in the same school system. But yet she was separated from him from junior high to a senior high school or something like that. But she said on this show how important it was for them to have their together time as brother and sister. I mean, it's not about anything. It's being brother and sister.
Absolutely. And I can see when kids get a little bit older, because of the curriculum needs, we do have to spend a little more time outside of the general ed classroom. When I walk into that high school, there's so many times that I see the students with special needs walking through the hallways and the kids interacting, but they take part, and I see them in the classrooms helping out. They form that special bond, like we've mentioned, from early on. And so they're accepted, but they're a vital part of that school environment.
Kay, you mentioned your son, 37 years old. How have you learned from that mother-son relationship that has helped you in education to keep a keen eye for children who may deal with something like this?
Oh. I think Adam and I have a very special bond as far as being open and honest with each other, and learning to ask questions of him, learning to understand where he's coming from, what his feelings are, and then go out and find something. I worked at United Cerebral Palsy with Gary Edwards, and he was always full of lots and lots of resources. And just looking at the environment, his needs, what we need to help. And I always believed that you could get more with a little sugar than you could with vinegar. So, instead of going in and demanding something for him, then I would go in and say, he needs this. How can we go about getting it? And I just think that works so much better to form a partnership. And Sylacauga City Schools, we have formed such a great partnership with our parents and our administration. We just all work together so well.
And it's fantastic, Jennifer, that educators, it's not just a number. They care about these children and students.
They do, and we have teachers that specifically ask for students to be in their classroom because they like the abilities that those children bring to their classroom, but also that social awareness.
And finally, Kay, this morning, Governor Kay Ivey has proclaimed this week, December 3rd through the 7th, as Inclusive Schools Week in our state, and kind of capsule where we are and what this means locally and statewide, because we've got a coverage of about 700,000 households this morning across the state of Alabama. What does this mean, and how can we continue to improve?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Inclusive schools means that, and in our state and in our system, believes that we believe that every student should have the opportunity to learn, and they should have the opportunity to learn to the fullest extent of their ability. And so that means making it individual for each student, providing what they need in order to accomplish those goals.
And Jennifer, I'm assuming that this is for pre-K all the way through high school?
Yes, starting from the very beginning when they enter at 3 years old with Miss K all the way through.
All right. Thank you both for coming this morning.
Thank you for having us.
And it's an honor to have you both here. Inclusive School Week, December 3rd through the 7th, Kaleidoscope of Friends. And Governor Kay Ivey proclaimed this week as Inclusive Schools Week across our state of Alabama. Fantastic interview this morning with these two ladies, and our school system, ladies and gentlemen, is in good hands. More Daybreak right after this.